Join us for an insightful program as we discuss the issues that helps to shape Jamaica's economic resilience, as well as delve into the political dynamics that help to shape our landscape. On The Conversation, we do so with resident social and political commentator Kevin O'Brien Chang. I am Kwame, and welcome to The Conversation. Sir Chang, how are you?
Giving thanks.
So, just before we started, we started looking at a number of things, and politics is never something that we don't discuss. We're always talking about politics. What are your views now of how we are as a democracy, one, and generally in terms of governance? How are we now?
As a democracy, I tell people, I did a little survey once. About 8 countries around in Jamaica. We're here, you have Panama, Costa Rica, all around. Jamaica is the only one that has not had a serious demonstration in the last 10 years. When I mean serious demonstration, I mean tens of thousands of people marching about some issue.
When was the last time we had that you can remember?
Precisely the point. Gas riots, 1997.
All right.
And that's a long time. And the last time I can remember a mass meeting of 10, 20,000 people was a halfway tree meeting about 2013, 2014 by the Christian Association, about the churches get together about keeping Jamaica's morals.
Was it that big?
Yeah, man, it was in the thousands. The biggest one it's the only demonstration I've seen in Jamaica in the thousands. Whether it was 5, 10, 20, it was in the thousands. And that was an issue. The biggest issue in Jamaica, for whatever reason, consistently the biggest issue, the moral principles of the country.
Wow.
The same thing they're talking about, the hate speech and, but
yeah.
whatever the thing was, you tell me a demonstration in Jamaica that has drawn 10,000 people.
No, I'm
the last since the gas riots.
Gas riots was what?
97.
97.
26 years ago.
26 years ago.
Generation ago.
And there's nothing since. So pretty much we're stable.
Well, as I say, people say this and that. I say, listen, if people are not satisfied with their system of governance, they demonstrate. And if they're not demonstrating, and we're not, not like guns are held, it's not like Cuba and Venezuela and them places.
But we could argue on the flip side that we have not gotten to that point yet where we're fully frustrated and we can't take it anymore.
Well, that's the point.
So,
if we're not,
so it's not good, but it's not as bad as it could be.
Other people, as I said, every single country, if you put Jamaica in a spot around us, include America with Florida, they have tens of thousands marching, some other demonstrations. The question is, why is Jamaica not demonstrating like these people in these other places? No mass demonstrations. And the logical answer to me is because people don't feel there's anything to demonstrate about. Any changes they want will come democratically.
Or perhaps it's about being passive-aggressive.
Are Jamaicans the passive people?
We can be.
We can be. But
no, does I say passive-aggressive?
Okay, are we a docile people?
That's another question.
Have you ever heard Jamaicans described as docile?
No.
All right. So my interpretation, the Jamaicans feel any changes they want, government, they can do it democratically. I don't have to get up on march. Any change I want, I can go to the ballot box.
All right.
Or not. What would be your explanation? Why Jamaica is such an exception to the rule?
Well, we have always been the exception to the rule, whether it's in any direction.
In some ways. We've had mass demonstrations in Jamaica. We had them in the 1930s, the Labour Rebellion. We had marches. Yeah, we had marches in the 70s. And I say you had gas riots. In the 80s, there were a lot of marches. You had the national strike. You had gas riots up to 97. But in the last 25 years, and you see it's more and more peaceful, in my view. Unfortunately, the murder rate doesn't reflect it. But even look at the police. This is one of the things that help people. Nobody's talking about it. But how often, when you hear like, we want justice, these demonstrations against the police, it used to be every week, right? They're extremely scarce.
So it's getting better?
Well,
the police force is getting better?
When has the relationship between the police and the populace been better than the last 5, 10 years?
Last 5, 10 years.
Yeah.
All right.
Think about it. So, the police, the view of the public to the police, in my view, you talk to them and listen to people, has changed dramatically. Remember the JCF, was a colonial occupying force. The police were formed to keep down poor black people from the white people above. and so it's always been seen as an occupying force. But the last 10 years, that image has dramatically changed. I don't see the antagonism between the police and the public anymore. I see the more partnership. It's not as perfect, but I ask people this question. Which police are more brutal, American police or Jamaican police? What would you say?
Well, based on what we have seen on the news, I don't think I'm in a position to answer yet. Right
now, which you would think? Who would you prefer to get stopped by?
Well, I'm in Jamaica, so obviously I'd prefer to get stopped here.
But I said 10 years ago, if I asked people, everybody said, well, of course, Jamaican police are more brutal than American. You're asking now, people think, and more answers I hear as, boy, they're more brutal than we, And that is the first time, I think, in the history you'd ever hear that.
So you said that there has been much growth as far as that is concerned. The police force is far better.
There's been a lot of social change in Jamaica. I just pick 10 years, call 10 years a decade. We're not recognizing.
What would you credit that social change to, though?
A more mature populace, more mature politicians, and people can say what they want, but leadership.
What do you mean when you say more mature politicians, though?
Well, okay, let's use our current Prime Minister, whatever it is. Have you heard him attack and badmind the other side? It used to be a very regular thing in Jamaica. I remember one time in things, Brother Clark said, I see evil over that side, and you would have people chasing each other on stages for good. Saga, these people, Black Scandal, Bag, and there would people come, things like that, and then people come, I'm on born, they would be antagonistic.
Well,
the antagonism, no, you don't see much. Look at okay, he was a prime minister. When have you heard him personally attack another person?
You started saying you started quoting the song, My Leader Barnia. So there has been a remake for that song. It was published a couple of weeks ago.
It's irony.
So, exactly. How long ago was that song published? And now they have a remake of that song. No, that's
politics changing, but they flip it. But again, it's not a, from what I gather, it's not a from the top directive. People on the ground are doing it. But the people at the top, I have not heard them at the top saying anything about it. In other words, it could easily, listen, but I try to around, the JLP felt that song was used to demonize Edward Siaga. A different leader in the JLP could easily have used it and point out the other man and say, it's our time now. Remember you had Black Man Time and them Black Sandal Bag, all these things, but you don't, he could easily have flipped and the leader at the top say, yes, man, I feel with time now, me born you. You have not heard it. That kind of antagonistic kind of thing, I'm saying, a more mature leadership.
So there has been a reduction in the tribalism.
Yes.
Antagonism is almost to a minimal now.
Definitely. You look at the last election. You saw JLP and PP dancing together. You never used to have that. One time there was gunshot at each other. Now we still have violence, unfortunately. But the last election, you see people, JLP and people, the nomination day, you saw them hug up and dancing. There definitely has been a trend since about 2011, that time. The tribalism, people are still supporting it, but you don't see the violent orange and green PNP versus JLP. That thing is almost like a thing of the past. When last have you heard actual political violence in Jamaica? Take away the gang. I mean, we still have a very high murder rate, sadly, but the one that can be attributed to politics certainly has diminished tremendously. Anybody who thinks back, even to 2011, 12, or before that, you'd be historically ignorant if you don't remember what it was like.
So you stated about the fact that crime is still going up.
It's going down. No, it's 10% down this year. It's still too high.
No, let us say that it's still too high.
Still too high.
Because it's where
murders are down 10% this year, the murder rate.
Last year, what was the murder rate?
No, but if you look at
what was the total amount of murders?
Look up JCF statistics. Go on the JCF site and you'll see it. 10% less murders to the same point in time as last year.
The crime index is still at what? 52.9.
Listen.
Last year it was 52.13.
What are you talking about? Crime index meaning what?
So
crime index meaning what?
We're looking at per capita.
No. If you go to the JCF, you can look it up. The JCF publishes it every month. They update it. You go on JCF site, you look at statistics.
That's what's telling you a number of persons that have died since the start of the year,
and it's 10% less than last year, yes. So it's 10% less people dead last year. So 10% lower murder rate.
We can argue that the year has ended yet, you know. We have a tendency to try and...
No, boss. We can't argue all the thing. I've said, come to this point in time, 2023 to 2022, there have been 10% or less murders than last year.
Last year it was at 1,400.
So you're going to drop to about...
Almost 1,500.
You're going to drop to about 1,300 or something this year.
So 1,300 and something. High 1,300.
I ain't saying it's... Listen, we're not arguing that this rate is not too high. All we're saying is lower than last year. And it's progress. Lower is always better than... For murders, lower is always better than higher.
What would be some of the measures in your estimation? I know you conduct your Twitter polls and all of that. What would have been a good... Or what would be some of the good measures that you think we could implement to help to stem the flow of violence or the incidences that we have here?
Well, I'm a believer. And this is why I've been urging whichever leaders in power for the last 20 years or so, adopt the simple slogan, tough on crime, tough on the causes of crime. Violence is happening now. The causes are societal, right? You get the first step of stopping crime is get the hardcore criminals out of the system. There's only a small portion of hardcore criminals, but they kill the people and then they attract others around them. And so you need to get the hardcore criminals out of circulation, but then you have to look at what caused these people to develop. The causes of crime, the social, the poor, family structure, the justice system, police brutality, all these things. So you can do both. But I'll tell you something. The Jamaican populace now, the ones who pay attention to crime, they're looking at a country like El Salvador. Mr. Bukele has cut crime to El Salvador was the highest murder rate in the Western Hemisphere 10 years ago. It's now the lowest. His measures might seem extreme, but I just talked to a friend who was in El Salvador the other day. They said this transformation is unbelievable. People are walking around 12 o'clock at night with no fear. Said the man is hugely popular, Mr. Bukele. Said maybe too popular. So it's an example that if you make people feel safe, you will become popular.
All right, we're going to hold it to that one. You're watching The Conversation. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Conversation. Just before the break, we started looking at some Latin American population studies and so on. And you started by saying that Jamaica is among the safest countries now, despite the high murder rate. Unpack that a little bit.
It's a paradox. It's weird. We have the highest murder rate in the world, certainly Latin America, right? Consistent for the last 20 years. But the Latin American population study done by Vanderbilt University, LAPOP, people can look it up, Vanderbilt University. They survey, they get universities in each country, respected, to survey the populace. Mexico, Nicaragua, Brazil, Costa Rica, Trinidad, all these countries, Guyana, and Latin America. And they look at two main factors. One, incident of crime. Were you a victim of crime in the last 12 months? B, fear factor. Do you feel afraid walking at night in your district? And incredibly, the safest country in Latin America by that statistics are Jamaica. And people can look it up. Vanderbilt University, LAPOP study, anybody hearing? When I make these things up.
No, well, I understand. Well, looking at the section that you spoke about, people feeling safe, could it be that because crime and the incidence of crime or the instance of crime has been so normalized, we have been desensitized to it, so... It's
not only Jamaica, but I'm trying to say, people said about Jamaica, it's not like Jamaica is an entity unto itself. No, every country in Latin America, is the most violent region in the world.
For our case,
if it's normalized for us, why is it not normalized elsewhere?
Because
why is it normalized elsewhere? What's different about it? No, it's not
remember,
different. We're not as different as we think. Jamaica different, but we're not as different. We are all human beings.
Yes.
We're all living in
we can argue that because of
why would Jamaica be more desensitized to crime than other countries that have the same crime too?
Well, Some persons have argued because it's culture in terms of how we respond to these things culturally. All right, so it has become normalized in terms of how we look at it. We just know that don't go that side, because persons have argued that most of the violence that we have had is concentrated between factions.
There you go. It's concentrated. Listen,
so
70%.
Because of that, no, you don't matter.
70% of the murders are gangs.
Yeah.
And about another, what, maybe 15% or 20% is
it's interpersonal,
domestic violence.
Interpersonal relationship and gang violence.
So the crime that most people would fear is not really there. If I'm not going in that gang area and I don't have no family who want to kill me off.
But you're pretty much reinforcing the point then. So because of that, we will feel safe because we understand that I'm not going to go in that community. But still, it still begs a whole heap, or it leaves a whole heap of questions.
I agree. Why is these areas... It's almost apartheid when it comes to crime. If you're in the inner city areas, you know, the ghettos that they call them, inner city, violence is extremely high. And you can you can point out the areas. And the police say that. That's the vast majority of murders in Jamaica. It's concentrated. So if you don't, as a man tell you one time, if you don't go where you're not supposed to go, and you don't do what you're not supposed to do, you're harder likely to be a victim of crime in Jamaica. So
that sounds, going back a little further, it sounds like we're having more, crime is more so, some of the contributing factor to crime is socially, so there's a social predisposition towards crime. How can we fix those things?
Education. Simple. If you look at the schools that get, passing for the 5 subjects, you look at the bottom schools, right? 5% of them get CXC, right? These guys, they're churning out a whole bunch of young men, uneducated young men, unskilled. They're prime fodder for criminals.
So when you say education, though, because I'm thinking that when you look at North Street, for example, you're traveling along North Street, you're going east. You have one traditional high school, another traditional high school, and an inner city school, all on the same stretch. What is the primary difference between those 3 schools? Why is it that this one would be considered to be inner city and these 2 are considered to be traditional? And
I can only say, I use the word apartheid, and there's a classism, apartheidism of how to look at people. In other words, it's almost like, sorry to use a crude term, but ghetto black youth now, them lives over nothing. It's a societal view. And I've said it's a great unfairness of Jamaica, that you are born in an area and your life doesn't mean anything. And it's concentrated there, and you grow up, and to break out is very difficult. You're like trapped there. You're born in another area, you're not trapped. You can progress. And it's a tragedy. I remember talking to Lieutenant Stucci, who talked good with. One time I was asking him, so, him say he's a ghetto youth. He said, boy, it's hard to say, and I grew up with a father. But I was never inclined that way. I used to have people come to me as smart, want to get in the gangs, and I saw people, young boys around me, become gangsters and get killed off. But it's a mental thing. The vast majority of them grew up with a mentality. This is how we are. He said he was different. For whatever reason, he's not even sure himself that he did not go that route. But it's a culturalization, and as I say, it is the reason why we have this kind of apartheid set up in Jamaica, classism. Up there, crime not there. Down here, you're doomed to a life of crime. And until we tackle that social dichotomy, we're always going to have these areas of the crime. And as I said, the Prime Minister had a good idea the other day. I don't know if there's political talk about Ministry of Peace or whatever, conflict resolution. Because a lot of things in Jamaica, every country has disagreements, but ours get ratcheted up to this degree. We are 2 brothers, a cook rice, whatever disagreement, one kill the other one. I remember reading that incident. So
yeah, all right, so you stated about the fact that it's socially driven sometimes.
Of course it is.
And you described apartheid, and then you say a Ministry of Peace. Probably just a reconciliation council similar to what they actually implemented in South Africa.
No, man, it's that we talk about on a lower level.
No, well, definitely.
We didn't have the apartheid of the up there antagonism. Our antagonism is low scale. It's a matter of people, they can't resolve their conflicts a lot of the time. Look at the family conflicts you see. It's crazy, as I say. As I said, I remember two brothers cooking rice, a disagreement, one killed the other one. I remember another one, they might ride bicycle, and some conflicts. Sometimes the conflicts are crazy. My policeman tell you one time, they might run a boat, and they come to somebody in the community, give us something, nah, give nothing. The food come, the man, him want in peace, and someone kick out them hands, so we never contribute nothing. It's 30 people dead for 2 dumplings.
Wow. All right, so...
And a lot of the murders I say in Jamaica are like this. As I say, I think those ILA-POP study to me ring true. Because most Jamaicans, you don't go certain areas and all that, you don't feel that afraid. How many businessmen in Jamaica need armed bodyguards?
Not a lot. So my question now, seeing that we need to identify who would be some of the primary stakeholders outside of those communities that are plagued by that kind of violence, because I'm sure that as a businessman, you would want your business to go close to some of these communities so that you can thrive.
I believe early childhood, if you ask me, and it's not something talked about much, but I think early childhood education is a critical factor. You'll have 2 children born, similar capabilities, similar capacity, right? One born in a Majestic Garden, one born in a Cherry Gardens. The one in Cherry Garden going to have parents who read, educate, watch, and discuss things. The one in Majestic might be the same intelligence, 16-year-old mother or 14-year-old whatever, no father, they do what is a book. By the time those are 5 years old, the gap is there already. You need the ones who are born with, unfortunate situation, early childhood education to help build them up. So when they have to go to school, they have a chance to progress. But they're trapped. And I've always felt that is if we want to become a country, crime isn't the factor, but a more even country. That is where it had to start. Early childhood education. People don't put enough stress on it. Why? It's a generational thing. If I'm a politician, I invest in this. In 20 years' time, me not benefit. We need politicians with vision who will say, listen, even when I'm gone, the legacy will be there. These children will be up there with the others, even though they won't call my name because I don't get the credit. But at least I know I've done a country better off for the next generation. That's what it will take. So
pretty much then, what we're arguing is that, firstly, when we started looking at politics to some small extent, we said that Jamaica's democracy is maturing.
Yes.
You think that we have gotten to that place where we can actually sit down and have an open, honest conversation and say that this is an issue and then take steps to remedy that? You think that we are at that place yet?
Boy, we should be, We should be. But let me put this delicately. Not all our politicians are interested in real issues as opposed to issues that will make a headline. And early childhood is something that will not make headline because it takes a long time for the fruits to bear fruit. A 2-year-old child now, go see them reach high school another 10 years, 15 years. And I'm a politician now, me want glory now, I want to win the next election. So something like that is not talked about, and you need maturity delicately on both sides.
All right, so we're going to take you up on that right after the break. You're watching The Conversation. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back to The Conversation. So, just a while ago, you made some statements. Or you made a particular statement. You said something to the effect that our politicians are not politically mature. So, is it a case whereby enough? Is it a case where they are possibly politicizing issues like crime and so on, as opposed to looking towards the real issues that are there to be solved?
Yes, politicians are a special breed. We love them and we hate them. Some of us around the country. But they're glory seekers, they're gamblers, and they want limelight. They want to run the country, right? It's an egotistic kind of thing. But you have to work with them. It's a certain type going to it. And you only have to hope that they're egotistic and love the limelight, but they will also put their country first and want good for their country. That's what you hope for a good politician, that yes, we know you lie and this and that, and you lie because people don't like the truth. People say politicians lie. Why do they lie? If they tell the truth, people vote them out.
so based
Nobody
on,
likes bad news.
Based on that now, we're constitutionally due a local government election.
You have to have it.
In February.
Man, you have to have it. I mean, I don't know how it's been postponed so long.
You think we'll have one before February?
I'm not a prophet, but we have to have it.
Well, I mean, you're a pollster. You do your polls. You conduct your poll. What are your thoughts on that?
If I'm in government, I do a proper poll, and I see I'm well ahead, why would I not call the election? So that is the thing. Depending on what the polls show. I can only say this. The last Blue Dot poll showed the JLP ahead, and I do my own vox pop. When people stop me on the streets and said, you know, what's a Chang a CEEN thing or not? I ask a simple question. Rate Andrew Holness out of 10 and rate Mark Golding out of 10. Because you don't have time for long conversations. I want a quick snapshot. So a lot of people have asked. And the general answer, generally, Andrew Holness averages 7 to 8. Mark Golding is at 4 to 5. So there's no question that Andrew Holness is far more popular on the ground than Mark Golding.
So were you expecting to hear the announcement of an election date at the last conference that was held?
No, to be stupid, you don't show your hand. When Andrew Holness first became Prime Minister, he blew it badly. He came and said at the conference, we're going to have the election.
That was in 2011?
Yeah, but before the end of the year. So it's like you show your hand. You allow your opponent to know when the election is going to be. You don't do that. You have advantage, why give it away? So Andrew Holness, I think I probably has learned something. So I'm not going to tell you now. Why would I tell you? When I'm ready, I'll tell you.
I mean, what is there to worry about? Because in local government, they have what, a supermajority?
Yeah, well,
in both sections.
You don't know. You don't know what the polls will say. You might look on all of it and say, look, I might say Holness more popular than Golding and the thing and all that, but you never know what the populace going to say on a scientific poll, and so he would have to do a scientific poll, and if he's ahead, he holds it, and if he's not, then try to delay it as much as they can. That's politics. It's always been that way.
So you're pretty much saying that he's not yet in a position, based on what your assessment is?
No, he might well be in a position, and the general can call it, but why let your opponents get ready? If I'm a good general, right, in a battle, war going on, I'm going to prepare my army to be strong, and then attack the other army when they don't expect it. Element of surprise. And that's always the element of the incumbent government has, and they've always used it to their advantage as much as they can.
Well, I mean, they have argued, in the last conversation I had with Senator Damien Crawford, he stated that the party was ready. His party was ready.
What are they going to say? Then I must. You guess we're not ready? Yeah, that nobody's going to say
that. So you're saying that might have been disingenuous? Or he's just kind of exaggerating?
That means what Damien just said, why we're not ready, you know? Nobody's going to say that. No politician in history has ever said, I'm not ready. But as I say, you look on it, there's constant wars going on there about which candidate. We just saw one last week. I don't know the situation, but I don't know why you have these constant wars about which candidate should be representing the party.
All right.
We just had one last week. Was it just, the guy from Westmoreland.
Mm-hmm. So tell me now, so in the last conference that we saw one councillor, Venetia Phillips, crossing the floor. She's now fully invested in the Jamaica Labour Party. Mm-hmm. So is that an indication that the JLP is significantly better, or is it a case whereby the People's National Party is significantly worse?
Same thing it come to. It's a two-horse race. If you put two donkeys that came on a spark, one has to win. It's not a matter of, good or bad. It's better or worse. That's politics.
So we have Ian Miles, we have Garfield James, and we have Venetia Phillips. Those three, these are three persons that have left.
You know the old Jamaican proverb, right? Fish come from river bottom, so alligator have boiled upon him mouth, believe him.
Never hear that part when a fish come from river bottom and say wet.
Well, same thing, yeah, but I mean that's the old Jamaican proverb, and I can't tell you what it is. Jamaican proverbs are the wisest in the world.
So you clearly have to unpack that, We want to understand what you mean. There must be somebody there trying to understand exactly what you mean. Go a little clearer.
But I'm saying if people who are in a system come and tell you that the system now work, we prefer that system, what are you going to conclude? From the public, we only see the iceberg, the 10% at the top. And if you see people come from below and say, this is how we see it, do you see the other side coming out and saying, and moving to the other way?
So, all right, so we stated that they have, in terms of local governance, there's a supermajority because it's 9 from 13. That's what the JLP currently holds. Do you think that this particular thing is a huge blow to the People's National Party now?
Which I mean, the switching?
The switching.
Well, it can't be good. If my people keep going to the other side.
What's the extent? What's the extent that you think?
As I say, I remember the public seeing the iceberg at 10% above the water. Below, I'm only assuming if these people are fed up at the top, there was a lot more dissatisfaction underneath.
Oh, so this is just a precursor.
Tip of the iceberg, as they say. That's what the assumption the public could make. Remember, I am not a political insider. By choice, really, I really don't want to go into it and become people, say, get close to these people and say, carry them line. You know? I have a few friends who were there before, but generally I don't mix with politicians. And maybe one or two I knew them before politics, but I don't try to get attached because I try to see my role as try to be objective and reflect what the people on the ground are saying. So,
I mean, I'm looking at trying to understand in terms of local government representative and the leadership impact. I think it was Dr. Horace Chang that said that persons were looking forward to quality service and leadership, and that is what the Jamaica Labour Party will use to retain their hold in the system. What are your views on that particular statement that was made?
Well, I tell you this. If the polls do show the JLP well ahead, why would Andrew Holness drop 2 elections one time? Some people are balling for it. If I was him, I would. If I'm ahead in the polls substantially. And the local government, it's a hit and miss thing. Some parishes seem to be doing well and some not doing well.
But that's historically tricky, though. I mean, we have never done anything like that.
Personally, I think people vote party local government. I think it's always a, what do you call it, a litmus test of what is happening for the national government. People don't really pay attention to local government much, but it does show when I go to vote what the populace feels. It's like a poll on a bigger scale. So to tell you, if parties that usually win local government, usually win the national, generally, 9 out of 10 times. If I win the local government, I will win the national election.
Well, so last time that we had, one of the issues that they spoke about was that it wasn't a case whereby the Jamaica Labour Party won. It was a case whereby the People's National Party lost because the voter turnout was, what, 37%? And from that 37%, they had around 59% of those total votes. Do you think that we are bound to see a better turnout this time? Or
well, remember COVID, you know? Last time reflected.
But there was some amount of apathy as well. It's not just COVID.
I tell people, if you look historically, Jamaica has not been a high percentage of voters. You know, on average, since '62, I've done this statistic, about 30% of Jamaican populace have voted.
Oh, well, it can't be 30% because last time was 37 and this was the lowest has been in
No, but
this
has been skewed. No, it's been since they brought in the Electoral Commission with the ID. It's been skewed. You have a lot more. The percentage of people registered voters are much higher than in the past. Why? Because people want the ID.
No, because you have more voters now. You know.
No, they don't vote. So, but I'm saying they have more registered voters, but the same amount of people are voting. The voting has not gone up to match the registered voters because people want the ID. And as I say, the percentage of Jamaicans have never been as a political animals, the whole country. You have a lot of the Rastas, the churches. They don't believe in it.
So another question then.
And I remember, you know, high voter turnout is not always great. The highest voter turnout we ever had was 1980, the Civil War election. Right? Do we want to go back? Would you like another election like 1980? Very few Jamaicans would, but that was the highest voter turnout ever.
But do you think, though, then, based on what we have seen, that we should look at mandatory voting, things like that? Because other jurisdictions have done that.
Listen, boss, but we are voting since 1944. We have one of the best democratic records on the planet. We've had 50-50, 50%. I think it's since 16 elections, whether it's 62 or 44. 8 incumbents have won, 8 they have been booted out.
No, man, I think we have had more than that, man. I think we have had about 19 exchanges of power from adult suffrage.
Well, what I'm saying is 50-50. What I'm saying is the incumbent in Jamaica has no great advantage. It's 50% again get booted out. We have a system of unbroken, never had a revolution, never had a coup, never had an assassination. We have one of the most stable democratic systems on the planet, right? I did this thing. If you look at the countries of 1 million or more who have never had an assassination, coup attempt, revolution, in other words, a challenge to the democratic system, there are about 17 countries. Jamaica is one of those 17, and the only non-white one. We're the most stable non-white democracy on the planet. And we're more stable than most white countries. I mean, the Europe and all that, who have hundreds of years of experience. For a young country, our democratic record is wonderful. Why would you tamper with it? Why? It ain't broke, don't fix it. That's why when it comes to republicanism, I always say now, whatever the people want. But how is it going to make our democratic system any better? Is Trinidad any better than Jamaica? They went republic, and Guyana. How has it made them any more stable than Jamaica?
Yeah, well, it's not just the change to our republic, you know. It's really just seeing how we can actually encourage more persons to come out and vote, because what you have explained to me a while ago.
Vote no count. No. Listen, part of freedom is not being, if I don't want to vote, I don't have to vote.
No, but follow me now. What you have just described now, because we have heard it said a number of times, the one who is too smart to vote is governed by fools. Put that one side. From
right.
adult suffrage, adult suffrage, you're saying that from we started voting, it's more or less the same amount of persons that have been voting.
Since 62.
So the population...
It was 62.
Yeah, so the
30%,
population...
roughly 30% of the population has voted.
So watch this now. The population has increased. However, and those who are eligible to vote obviously has increased. But the amount of persons that have actually gone out to vote, it has remained the same. So relative to the population, you know that's a decline.
No, 30% of the population. Whatever, if it's 1 million people, 300,000. If it's 2 million, 600,000. 3 million, 900,000. I mean, the percentage is generally, it's fluctuated a bit, but generally, it's been like that.
And you don't think we should try and fix that anyway at all?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't want. Remember, a lot of people that don't vote, you know, say no better herring, no better barrel. They're both the same. I'm going to kill myself up. But the same man, them a thief out money. It's a lot of cynical people, right? That's part of it. And the other part is, my country is well run. Either them can run the country good. It don't make no difference to me. So the country not go down the drain whichever want to run it.
So you're saying it's the cleanest dirty shirt?
Cleanest dirty shirt. That is damn exactly the point. And as I say, when you have a democratic system where people are very confident, and I go back to the point, we're not marching. Why? Because we know if we want to change, we can't vote them out. We don't have to worry about it. Nobody will entrench themselves and we can't get them out. It's never happened. So we feel that, look, we are in control of the voters. We can vote them out if we want. I don't have to march. And if I decide not to vote, well, neither of them can run the country decent enough.
All right, hold that thought as we take our final break on the conversation. So you started saying something before the break.
Sometimes people are looking for a solution to a problem that does not exist.
So you're saying that we don't have a problem, so don't fix anything.
Politics? Mm-hmm. What problem do we have? We have one of the most stable democracies on the planet. We're very confident next election. If we don't like that prime minister, that we can vote him out. Nobody going to lock me into jail for running my mouth here, right? The rule of law, we can't. It is pretty strict. What you call it? We have a system of integrity, and we're pretty confident that the rule of law will hold in Jamaica. If it takes too long, advantages are money, but the rule of law holds. If the law says something, the prime minister bows to it. It's happened many times. Non-constitutional changes have been made. Michael Manley did it, Andrew Holness did it. Made changes. People challenged it in court. It was found non-constitutional, and they had to obey the Constitution. So in all the critical aspects, with the rule of law holds, freedom of press holds, we have free and fair election, that prime ministers get voted all the time. The pillars of democracy are as entrenched in Jamaica as they are anywhere on the planet.
And that's to our credit?
Of course that's to our credit. Of course. It's the Jamaican people are shown to be people of wisdom. Some of the people up there, sir, didn't want, remember, you know, a lot of people opposed universal suffrage. They said people who are ignorant, them can't manage it. Jamaicans have proven wonderfully wise as a group, as an entity. Maybe individually, like I said, them fool, but as an entity, how could you want a better democratic system in Jamaica? That's what we've proven. Change our leaders regularly. No coup, no revolution. May I ask a question? How would a non-democratic change of power manifest itself in Jamaica? Do you see the upper camp colonels having a coup? Do you see anybody downtown leading a revolution? Maybe in a different manifestation, a Vibes cartel or a bounty killer might have been Rob Rosas. But do you see anybody out there can spark a revolution? Think about it. How would a non-democratic change of government occur in Jamaica? No. I can't conceive of it. Can you?
No.
It's almost we don't want to say inconceivable because not cool. You know what you go. No, but as I say,
yeah.
You just don't see what could happen. You don't see how we could have a democratic change of power.
All right, be that as it may, though, when we look at, for example, both political parties, we understand that with the recent press conference or the recent gathering that they had, how would you describe both meetings that they have had or both conventions that they have had? You know, I'm sure you would have seen.
I tell people this. Obviously, the JLP had a bigger turnout, younger, more enthusiastic. But I can tell you this, the largest conference I can remember watching in Jamaica was 2011 JLP conference, when Andrew Holness became the leader. The place was full of young people, yeah, Andrew, this and that.
So this is still not as big as that?
No, I don't think, I think that one is bigger. And they lost. So as I say, 150,000 strong can be wrong.
So, but you think in terms of the substance, though, the utterances that were made, the promises that were made, and the plans that they would have detailed to some extent, do you think that, which party do you think would be better or more consistent in terms of showing themselves to be the party that's most likely to take on the mantle of leadership after the next general election?
Well, let me tell you, politics, when you say things, people say you're biased. I try to tell people, I don't belong to PNP or JLP. I never go to either headquarters in my life. I don't get in a position when PNP come or JLP come, I don't get in a big position, right? I am not connected to the parties. Whether JLP or PNP win, it makes no difference personally to me. But I have young children. I want a good Jamaica. So I will always support the one leader or the party who I think will progress my country better. And when you hear the leaders speak, their speeches, the substance, the plans, there's no question that Andrew Holness, you hear him speak and the plans he has for the country. If you have young children, I do, I say, this is the man I want. If me drop out, this is the leader me want, my people them grow up under. Because he's promising a better Jamaica. I tell you people I want a country. My children might go to university abroad. I want a country where they will come back to Jamaica. I want to live in Jamaica because they see a future here for themselves. A decent, safe enough country with progressive. That's what I want.
So you're saying that based on the last utterances,
yes,
the current Prime Minister would have made a better statement to that end as opposed to the opposition leader?
Yes, when you hear him talk about the plans, he's going to develop downtown, he's going to build the parliament buildings, and there are those big things. And you hear the other things. He's a thinking Prime Minister. He has a strategy, and you can see it come about, the macroeconomic stability. Look, I don't come downtown often. So I come down and I see this digital building. I said, blouse and skirt. This is first world. Who is saying nothing now go on in Jamaica? If you come downtown and you compare mentally to 10 years ago to 10 years now, how could you say Jamaica is not progressing?
So
it is manifesting itself.
I'm happy that you spoke about progress now, because even though you can say that we are progressing, based on the statistics from the World Bank and all of those organizations, we are low growth, low wage. So yes, there's greater levels of employment, yes, but in terms of the quality of employment. So I think it was Richard Biles who would have said it a couple of years ago that you need transformative salaries. Are we there yet from a businessman's perspective.
Listen, you know that the minimum wage is the highest in the history of Jamaica, right? Businesses are, real terms. Dr. Damon King posted it.
Yeah, but that doesn't,
and it's in real terms.
Mean...
we talk about real terms in terms of U.S. equivalent dollar, not in Jamaican dollar. So the highest in real purchasing power.
Cost of living, though?
In terms of purchasing power, it is the highest ever, right? Now, we're not saying Jamaica doesn't need improvement and that you want higher salaries and better jobs. But do you think you go from 0 to 100 overnight? You go 0 to 10 to 20 to 30 to 40. Now, if you're at 0, you're going to expect to shoot up. If you go from 0 to 20 to 30 to 40 to 50, you can't sit inside the 100. So I'm saying you can see the job is not me what I want, but which is better? No job or a job that I don't want, but I can get maybe step ladder and go up higher. You have to step on the ladder, You don't start, if you think you can just go from a ladder and jump to the top, wrong by wrong.
So you're saying that the fact that we're moving is a move in the right direction?
Well, of course, then I must.
And what do you have to say about his view, as in Richard Byles' view about transformative salary? You think there's a point there to be
Yeah, but they're going to transform overnight, and it's transforming. I tell you this, that if you talk to any businessman in Jamaica, any field, they're having struggled, a tough time getting people to work. And supply and demand tells you that if the supply is, the demand is higher than the supply, you have to step up the wages. It's going to happen. It's bound to happen. It's been happening. I tell you, the minimum wages give you a baseline that is the highest ever, and you're going to see gradually more and more the real wage increases. If the productivity increases, so and that's a trick, to increase the productivity, which requires educational improvements. So it's all tied together. But there's no question that the young Jamaicans today, and this is unquestionable, have more options today job-wise than ever in the history of the country. I can tell you that for a fact.
My company, qualitatively or quantitatively,
my company,
or
I
both?
tell you, Fontana, in the 90s and 2000s, university graduates would come there and ask us for floor clerks job. We said to them, why would I like help you, but you're overqualified, I'm going to stay here, but we can't get a job nowhere. No, I can tell you, Fontana come to Fontana, and in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to another job. The turnover is much, the opportunities are there. Anybody who cannot see that reality is blind or willfully ignorant. They don't want to admit it. But young person, and I can tell if you talk to any of the young people working here, far more options ever than before in Jamaica. I mean, it's not perfect, it's not like I can get my ideal job, but I can get a job and I can step up the ladder and move up. I mean, in the 2007 election, I can't forget, it was the JLP and Bruce Golding, people remember back on the campaign, the ads, jobs, right? You look today, 4.5% unemployment rate in Jamaica, lower than Germany. Now you tell me, you would ever think you could ever hear Jamaica have a low unemployment rate than Germany. If I tell you that 10 years ago, I say, I'm a madman that. That's a lunatic.
I think
that could never happen, but it has happened.
Yeah, I think most of us, though, our concern would primarily be around the quality of the jobs that are being
But before
offered.
there was no job at all.
So you're saying that it shouldn't matter once you have more
I don't
jobs?
say it shouldn't matter. No, I don't know. Don't put words on it. It shouldn't matter. Yes, you would want better quality jobs. But the first step is getting a job. Then I can step up the ladder. Until I get to the first rung of that ladder, I can't go on the other rungs. And there's no question you're going to see a gradual improvement if we get the education system up. That is the bottleneck. If the quality of jobs don't increase because the people are not qualified enough. But right now, I saw the other day, about 6 months ago, Craver, what the bike men wanted. Now, for a job like that, all it means you have to have a license, be disciplined enough and work. Anybody can work a job like that. So even the ones who say formerly unemployable, you see the range of jobs available. I mean, numbers don't lie. 4.5% unemployment. It used to be 20% we used to, 20%, 15%. That was the norm in Jamaica. When it first became single digits, it was a big thing. And now what, 4.5%? And people would say, nothing will go on. That's insanity. Nothing could be more insanity. All those people are working, hundreds of thousands who have jobs now. You're going to tell me their life not better after when they were sitting down at home not doing nothing?
Yeah, so continuing on the quality. So we're continuing on the quality of employment and unemployment rate. Yes, it's the lowest it has been. And the quality is related. Equality will be related to the education levels. All right.
And productivity.
So apart from the whole aspect of education, though, what are some of the other key factors that have been or can contribute to the quality of employment, and how do these factors affect the overall well-being of Jamaica as of the country?
Well, it makes sense. If I have a youth a kickstone or a youth have a job, which one better for the country? Eh? And the fact is, as I said, what Jamaica lack now, this is skilled labor. If you're a tradesman nowadays, you know, you can. The other day I saw a well-known businessman post and said, "Look, my electrician make more than me. If you're have a skill now, you can write your ticket. They're in demand. So the challenge is now for get more skilled labor, educated labor, different level, but skilled, educated, same thing. If you electrician, mason, carpenter, all them people, you can't get them. Well, the other day posted, the other day, I have to cut him one pipe and fix up him one pipe 2 o'clock at night. He said, I can't get nobody to come fix it.
Well, the Prime Minister and has spoken about the role that Heart Trust will be playing in that.
We need to ramp it up. As I said, they need to invest more in education, ramp it up, and while the Prime Minister don't doubt him, it can still be amplified. And Heart, by the way, I'm on the JAMPRO board, or the RG, yeah. And the Heart person came, and when they told us how much more people are doing 3-4 years ago, it's incredible. Heart has ramped up big time. And as I said, when you hear the people say, not going, they're not paying attention. There are far more people at Heart. Nobody is getting skilled and all that than there were 3 years ago. She made a presentation, RGD or JAMPRO. I'm on 2 boards, and I forget. But
most likely JAMPRO.
Yeah, and I was, whoa. And we all were saying, all of us business people, we never know this.
So you're saying that that's a good idea. It's doing well. So pretty much now, we're going back in the remaining minutes that we have. We're looking at the austerity measures that we have implemented locally. Those started in, I think, 2011. And they have been continuing so far. Do you think we have the wherewithal to continue with those so that we can grow?
What austerity measures we have now?
We have none?
The only thing keeping us...
Fiscal consolidation and all of those different things?
Listen, you just the other day, for the first time anybody can remember, Jamaica's balance of payment was positive. Nobody can remember the last time it was.
What does that mean?
It means that we're getting in more money than we're sending out. It's like, in other words...
So we're exporting more than we're importing, that's what it means?
Not necessarily, because the remittances are there. But in other words, we are more money coming in than going out. It's like a shop. I sell more than that, my revenues are more than my expenses. You know, I'm making a profit then. But it's a positive for a country. If I am, my balance of payments are not negative, because we've been building up. So the austerity measure, the one thing that Jamaicans have suffered from is inflation, which is a worldwide thing. That's the only thing you can say austerity, meaning that people are feeling pain. That making them feel pain is the inflation, which is a worldwide thing, and you've had to raise the interest rates to control the inflation. But where's the austerity, in other words, when last year saying the new taxes, the talk now, the threshold is going to be increased. It's 1.5 million, and you hear Dr. Clark talk. It looks like it might be about, and Damian King, the respected economist, about 2.25, but probably go 50%. PNP, of course, want to double it, but that's politics. I want to say, oh, we told them, see? But chances are it's going to happen. And as I say, the macroeconomic environment in Jamaica has never been better. I wrote an article, did the numbers. If you look at unemployment, inflation, GDP growth, debt to GDP ratio, poverty rate, take all those together. They're the best in the history of the country. People talk about JLP. The JLP is talk about, 1971, we had 10% growth. Yeah, but unemployment was 20%. And they said, people ask why the JLP got booted out in 71 when it was 10% growth. Because there's 20% unemployment. Only the people at the top, only the growing at the top are feeling that. Now is the lowest unemployment rate in history. I guess the people now feel it when there are 100,000 people more are working.
All right, to your credit. So the end of the year is almost upon us. Mm-hmm. How do you think that we'll fare? Do you think that this year will be a good year? We're going out with a bang. And you think that we have the wherewithal to ensure that next year is even better than this year, based on the direction that you see us going?
If you take Jamaica as a whole, just as a microcosm, yes. But unfortunately, or fortunately, or the reality, whatever it is, fortunate, unfortunate, we are a cork on a sea. And if the sea level go up, we rise. So as we will do as well as the world economy, and especially the US, that's where our tourists and stuff come from. But in terms of looking after our own situation, all the numbers are the best collectively that they have ever been. People can say I'm biased, politics. The numbers don't lie. I'm making up the unemployment numbers. I'm making up the inflation numbers. I'm making up the GDP growth. I'm making up the poverty rate. Next, World Bank predicts a poverty rate will drop to its lowest level ever next year, right? The GDP, debt to GDP ratio, we're going to look at 70% soon. It was 140% 10 years ago.
It's half now, almost half.
And people are going to say, no, go on. Does it make sense?
You tell me. Sometimes it's difficult to assess how you feel, though, as opposed to
we will see in the next election. If the people feel that they are better off under this government, they will re-elect the JLP. If they figure, if you don't feel they're better off, they might boot them or a severe or reduced majority.
All right, final question. What's your assessment? Do you think that Andrew Holness will actually be returned to power should he decide to call another election shortly?
Based on my vox pops, he is much more popular than Mark Golding. And Mark Golding, I'd say this, Mark, what the people don't like, not a person ever mentioned Mark Golding color. What they don't like is not authentic. They hate the fake patois. He says, that's not who you are. We never elect you as leader if you don't put on fake patois. You're a respected businessman, orderly, know what's going on, you know, intelligent man.
So he's inauthentic.
Go on like that, inauthentic that people say. Not one person ever mentioned him color. It's amazing. I think what is right, you know, nobody ever mentioned him color, but he's not seen as authentic. That's what they don't like about him. They mention the fake patois over and over. So not how him talk to him friend them in a boardroom and prove him. What is going on like that now? That is what I hear, Mark. Don't cuss me for that.
All right.
And Andrew is seen as a man trying. The weakness of Andrew Holness is weak on crime.
Weak on crime.
They say I'm not tough enough. So Andrew will give 49 seats, and you're still listening to the human rights people who have no support on the ground. Stop listening to them. Listen to us. We want tougher measures. No bail for murder. 50 years for murder. More gun crime. They want tough measures. Jamaicans want tougher measures.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. O'Brien Chang. We hope to see you sometime in the coming year, but it has been a very, very useful, very informative conversation.
Thanks. I don't like talking to you, Kwame. You're not asked very, you know, you go up below the surface. You don't stay on the top.
Thank you very much. So there you have it. This has been the conversation. I am Kwame Thomas. So.